Let's be honest, growing a local church is hard work. Down the years, I've spoken to so many people in church leadership who carry a permanent burden of guilt that their church isn't growing. It can seem as if everything's stacked against us. We're living in a fast-changing world, and sometimes it feels like a world that's not interested in what the local church has to offer.
Have a look in your handbook. In there, you'll see that we've listed a number of reasons why different people might think church growth is hard. I'm going to read them out now. As I do that, you can tick the ones that ring true for you, or the ones you've heard other people say. So make sure you've got a pen in your hand. Ready? We're not really sure how to grow. We're busy just keeping our church going. Most of our members are hesitant about sharing their faith. We tried a course or event once and it didn't really work. People have more alternative activities on a Sunday these days. People today are just less interested in church. Lots of people today are spiritual but not religious. Or any other reason you can think of, jot that down too. So tick the ones that ring true for you and add any others you can think of.
For people who've been in church leadership a while, it can feel as if all their ministerial training and all their years of reading Christian books are like an old atlas. They map a world that no longer exists. The old reference points seem to have changed. One thing's for certain, we can't assume people have any interest in what we have to offer. We start further back, and for most people, the journey of faith takes longer.
But this rethinking of faith in changing times is also exciting. My favourite quote is from the Spanish poet Antonio Machado. He said this: "Traveller, there is no road. We make the road by walking." In other words, we can't rely on old maps and atlases. One thing that doesn't change is God's eternal love, but the way we communicate God's love does have to be reimagined in each generation. We have to offer it in new ways that make sense to people in our own day. In the words of the Spanish poet, we're making new roads as we head into uncharted terrain.
I reckon part of the problem is this. Christian outreach can feel as if we're taking God into hostile territory, places where God is absent. In other words, it's easy to see the world around us as literally God forsaken. Evangelism can feel like we're taking an alien message to reluctant hearers. But what if that's not true? What if people are more open than we think?
Here's a true story from South Africa. Some game wardens from a safari park were transporting a leopard. The van got into an accident and the leopard bounded off into the suburbs of Johannesburg. So the game wardens called in hunters to trap the leopard before it caused any damage. The hunters arrived with their rifles and searched the suburbs for a wild leopard. And on their very first night of searching, they found 7 leopards, all hiding in the suburbs. In other words, at least 6 leopards had been there all along. It's just that nobody'd been looking for them. To me, that story says something about God at work in my community. What if God's already out there touching hearts and lives? In other words, what if God's like those leopards in the suburbs of Johannesburg? There all the time, it's just that we haven't noticed.
Archbishop Rowan Williams puts it well. He said, "Mission is finding out what God is doing and joining in." The theological term for that is Missio Dei, Latin for the mission of God. It basically means God takes the lead and we keep our eyes open for what God's already doing. I love that story about the leopards. It reminds me that God's already out there doing stuff in my community. God's already at work among the people I live and work with. It takes the pressure off me to be a great evangelist or to have all the answers to every possible question. My role is to keep my eyes open for what God's already up to.
So here's a question for you. Have a think. Have you come across hidden leopards in your own life or your community in the past year? Have a look in your handbook and you'll see a few suggestions. Maybe it was unexpected people attending an online service. or a friend or colleague asking you why you go to church. Maybe somebody unexpectedly asked you to pray for them. Or a family member was open to spiritual questions for the very first time. Have a think. Any times in the past year you were surprised by signs of God at work, in friends or neighbours or colleagues or in your community?
In a moment, we're going to ask you to discuss hidden leopards in your breakout rooms. But before we do, I'm going to suggest one huge hidden leopard. In a recent opinion survey, 44% of all UK adults said they prayed. That's a huge number of people praying, almost half of the population. Of course, they may not know who they're praying to, but that's still an awful lot of prayer going on. Maybe we can be the people who help them to find out who's on the other end of the line as they pray.
One thing I am convinced of, that this is where church growth begins. Not with clever techniques or imported models, but keeping our eyes open for hidden leopards in our own backyard.